So before we get into this example, remember that when you name or give the dimensions of a matrix, you always give the number. It's rows by column. So it's rows first by columns second. So when I'm giving the dimensions, it's always rows. And remember, rows go horizontal. And then columns go vertical. So that's really important because matrix A, what would be the dimensions of matrix A? So matrix A has only one row, but it has 3 columns. So it is a 1 by 3. That's my dimensions for matrix A. What would be the dimensions for matrix B? 3 by 1. Good. Okay. In order to multiply 2 matrices, these numbers have to be the same. Okay? So what that means is the number of columns has to match the number of rows in the second matrix. And because these numbers are the same, we can multiply them. The new dimensions of our resulting vector, because after we multiply it, we're going to get a new matrix. The resulting dimensions will be 1 by 1. So when we're finished multiplying, we're only going to have 1 row and 1 column. Okay? So in order to multiply, we are going to take three times 3. So let's go ahead and do that. So 3 times 3 plus -5 times 4 plus 2 times -5. So go ahead, take your calculator, type that in. -21, who got -21? And that is your answer. So vector A times vector B, there's only one number, 1 row, 1 column. That would be my answer. So let's do a couple more examples today. If you did not watch the video that I sent out, I recommend that you do watch that again or watch it. Okay, so here is our second example. Go ahead and copy it down. So the first thing we're going to do is find AB. So we're going to do that one first. Okay, so what is the dimensions of matrix A? How many rows, how many columns? All right, so this is a 2 by 3. And B is a what? Okay, so can we multiply these together? We can. Because these numbers are the same, we can multiply them together. And this time, the dimensions will be a 2 by 2. Thank you. So we're going to have a 2 by 2 matrix as our result. Okay, so what we're going to do first is take these numbers. So the first number in our matrix is going to be what we get when I multiply this top row by this first column. Okay, so I'm going to do it off to the side. So we're going to take 2 times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus 3 times 3. So what I did was I took the 2 and multiplied it by the 1. And then I took the 1 and I'm multiplying it by the 2. And then I took the 3 and I multiplied it by the 3. So go ahead, put that in your calculator, just like this, straight across, and that would be your first number that would go right here. So 2 times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus 3 times 3. And you should get 13. Who got 13? All right, good. So now what I'm going to do is multiply that first row by the second column. So I'm going to have 2 times 1. Sorry, not 2 times 1. 2 times 0 plus 1 times 1 plus 3 times 2. So I'm just multiplying in order. So I'm taking these two numbers to multiply them, these two numbers, and these two numbers. And then add them all together. So what do you get for your second number? 7? Anybody get 7? Okay, good. So now let's move over. And do the same process, but this time I'm going to use my second row and multiply it by the first column. So that would be 1 times 1 plus negative 1 times 2 plus 0 times 3. And what did you get? Negative 1. Good job. And now we're going to do that one more time. Multiply the second row by the second column. So that would be 1 times 0 plus negative 1 times 1 plus 0 times 2. And you should get negative 1. Any questions about the process? Okay, so before we do that BA, I do want to do this bigger one that I skipped by mistake. So I'm going to go back. And hold on. So we're going to find AB again. The dimensions of matrix A is 2, it's a 2 by 3. And the dimensions of matrix B is what? 3 by 4. So my result is going to be how many rows, how many columns? It's going to be a 2 by 3 or a 2 by 4. All right, so my result is going to have 2 rows and 4 columns. Okay, so let me go ahead and put that to the side, and then we can start multiplying. When you multiply, again, we're going to start with the first row, and we're going to take that first row and multiply it by the first column. So it will be 2 times 2 plus 4 times 4 plus negative 1 times negative 3. Go ahead and type that in your calculators. And you should get 23. Who got 23 for the first number? Okay, good. So now we're just going to finish out the first row. To find the other 3 numbers in the first row, we're going to continue multiplying the first row, but we're going to just move down and do the other 3 columns of matrix B. So now use the second column. So we have 2 times 5 plus 4 times 8 plus negative 1 times 1. So that's 10 plus 32 plus 1, which should be, what did you get? You got 40? 41. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the third entry. Move on down the columns. So we have 2 times 1 plus 4 times 0 plus -1 times -2. And then my last entry, I'll just write it out, would be 2 times 4 plus 4 times 6 plus -1 times -1. So I have 4 for my third number. And what did you get for the fourth number?
33.
So do we agree with the first row of our answer? So now what are we going to do to find the second row? So we're going to take our second column and do the same thing. So starting with, now we're using our second row, not second column, sorry. We're going to take our second row and do the same thing. Okay, so go ahead and start filling that in. So that's 5 times 2 plus 4 times 8 plus 0 times -3. Okay, so for this first number here, we would have 5 times 2 plus 8 times 4 plus 0 times -3. So what did you get for that first number in row 2? 42. And then you're going to just keep rolling down and do the same thing using the last 3 columns. So let me take that off. Now you're going to multiply those. So that would be 5 times 5 plus 8 times 8 plus 0 times 1. Which, what did you get? 89. Anybody else get 89? Okay. And for the third number, we have 5 times 1 plus 8 times 0 plus 0 times negative 2, and that's just 5. And then the last digit of our answer is 5 times 4 plus 8 times 6 plus 0 times negative 1, which is, what, 20 plus 48, so 68. And that's that. Okay, so we'll just do one more. I'll find one that's not quite so big. Well, actually, I'll just find one that's like what we have to do for our quiz next week. So let's go ahead and skip to this example here. Oops, that's not the right thing. Hold on one second. And this is our last example for today. Okay, so we have a 3 by 3 that we are multiplying by a what? 3 by 2. So that tells me, because these numbers are the same, that we can multiply them. My answer, this is what you all, whatever is left out, that is my dimensions. So my answer is going to have 3 rows. This tells me how many rows it will be in my answer. And this number tells me how many columns. So it's going to be tall, a tall matrix. So we're just going to take the first row and multiply it by the first column. So in your calculators, to figure out what number goes right here, take 4 times 2 plus negative 2 times 1 plus 3 times 0. And if you type that in your calculator, you should get 6. No, yes, you should get 6, sorry. So this first number is 6. To find the second number in this, because there's 2 numbers per row. There's 3 rows, and every row has 2 numbers. So to find the second number, I'm going to multiply that first row by the second column. So we have 4 times 6 plus negative 2 times negative 1 plus 3 times 2. Type that in your calculators, and you should have 32. All right, so now we're going to repeat that process. Take the second row, multiply it by the first column. So that would be 0 times 2 plus 1 times 1 plus 2 times 0, which is 1. That's the first number in my second row. And now repeat that. going to have 0 times 6 plus 1 times negative 1 plus 2 times 2. And you should have 3. And then lastly, you're going to do the same thing with the third row. Let's multiply it by the first column. So that would be negative 1 times 2 plus 0 times 1 plus 1 times 0, which is negative 2. That would go here. And with my last row, second column, we have negative 1 times 6 plus 0 times negative 1 plus 1 times 2. And that should give you negative 4. And this is the answer that you would have to give me to get full credit on the quiz. So that's it for today. Just a reminder, homework 23 is due on Monday. This material that we learned today is not homework 23. So the material for homework 23 is what we finished yesterday. Have a great weekend.